Hello and welcome back to CKM Red Rugby League Fantasy Super League, the only show on the web bringing you all the talking points by talking points. Of course, in this show we'll be taking you through all the potential non-players this week, injury news and suspensions, as well as last week's big performers and a few top tips to really bump you up that fantasy league. Starting on Friday night, and the opener for that round was Warrington versus Toronto. A much closer game than many anticipated. That game ending 32-22. Warrington running away with it in sort of the last 10-15 minutes of that game. The Giants continued their unbeaten run with a 22-4 win over Hull KR. Again, Aidan Caesar and Lee Gaskell really taking control of that game. We'll be talking more about that later on in the show. Castleford staged a second half blowout against the Wakefield Trinity, winning that one 32-15. Casualties on both sides, Wakefield in particular, they're going to really struggle this week. Final games of the week were Leeds Rhinos taking on Salford over at the AJ Bell, the Rhinos running at 22 points to 8 winners, and the Warriors beating Hull FC 26-12. More about that a little bit later. We start with Matty Ashton. We called it last week for him to have a big game, and boy did he deliver. 168 running metres from 12 carries, 1 offload, 1 try. He really did shine this week. Over to the Castleford-Wakefield game, and you could not look past Daryl Alforts if you're talking about your man of the match. 2 tries, 14 carries and 4 tackle busts. Daryl really getting through the work and surely cementing plenty of points. Over to Huddersfield versus Hull KR, and honourable mentions for Dean Hadley. Got through 52 tackles in that game and plenty of carries too, so he'll certainly be worth a few points this week. My big performer in that game was the Huddersfield Giants prop Matagi. The big man getting through 126 running metres off 15 carries while also making 30 tackles, 4 of those coming from out of marker. Got through a huge stint and he's getting more minutes as his match fitness gets better and better, so certainly one to watch out for and potentially one to put in your team in the next few weeks. Over to Salford versus Leeds, and the dynamic youngster that is Harry Newman once more cannot be overlooked. The young centre coming in, finding plenty of work, and my God was he a handful every single time he touched the ball. Off 13 carries, making 122 metres, and alongside that with 11 tackle busts, Salford simply could not put him down. And finally, Hull FC against Wigan, and although he was on the losing side, you cannot look past Josh Griffin. He's in the form of his life and he is really putting a lot of Super League teams to the sword. Despite picking up a yellow card and that cost him a few points this week, he's still one of the highest performers. 1 try, 1 try assist, 198 running metres off 4 clean breaks. He has put in a huge shift this week once more and continues to be consistently one of the highest performing players in Super League. With that, we then head over to Fantasy's top 5 picks of the week. These are the 5 highest performing players based on points and points alone. At number 5, Mitch Garber. The Hull KR prop amassing a huge 76 points against the Giants this week. Those points coming off 18 carries, 126 running metres and 3 tackle busts. Garber is a prolific early season performer. We saw shades of it last year as well. If he can stay injury free, he can definitely regain that form that put him as one of the front runners for best prop in the competition. In at number 4 on 77 points is Dean Hadley. The bulk of those points coming from that huge 52 tackle haul that he put in against the Giants. Number 3, 80 points, Josh Griffin. Again, already spoken a lot about his stats. Don't need to go into much further detail about those, but he'd have been worth a lot more points this week if it wasn't for that yellow card. In at number 2 is the Toronto Wolfpack's hooker, Andy Ackers. Ackers amassing 85 points. Again, a lot of that coming from tackles. He put in a lot of dummy half runs, a few attacking kicks, and of course bagging a try and a try assist as well. really putting in the work this week. And at number 1 is Joe Westerman, the Wakefield loose forward, getting through plenty of meters, plenty of carries, and bagging a try for himself as well. Westerman getting through 38 tackles, 114 meters off 16 tackles, and 2 tackle busts as well. Unfortunately, Westerman picking up an injury, but more on that as we get through to the injuries, selections, and availability later on in the show. So with that, we will head over to the CKM Red Rugby League Fantasy Super League table. In at number 5 is Beth's Barmy Army. 4th, Eye of the Cougar. 3, Paseo del Fresno. 2nd, Rosie's Barmy Army. And still in at number 1 is, of course, John Mason with Johnny's Giants number 1, really opening up that gap at the top now. If you want to join the CKM Red Rugby League and be in with a chance of winning a brand new exclusive prize, it's currently under production at the minute, feel free to do so. The details are here. With that then, we will take a look at my team and see how that got on. So you'll see that a couple of players on my bench have got a few points against them. That's because before I started recording, which I really should have done afterwards, is I moved a few things around, moved a few players around, especially with getting the jump on the injury news as well, and hoping you'll be able to do the same after this. So I'm now at a position with my Fantasy Super League very much like my payday scenario, and that is that there is too much month left at the end of my transfers. Made some bad decisions at the start of the season, and now I am ushering in the end of the month and cannot wish for it to come any quicker, as I'm very much trapped with the selections that I've got, and as players are picking up injuries and suspensions, it is not a pretty sight for me. Made 3 changes to my team this week, and that is Luke Thompson back in for Adam Waln. Waln, of course, not playing, so 0 points regardless of what I've done there. It was a really big gamble, 50-50 moment. Tommy Makinson back in for Matty Russell. Matty Russell's been bagging a few tries, so I can't complain. And Harvey Livett out for Stevie Ward. Ward will be 50-50 for the Rhinos this week, but Livette's been categorically ruled out by the Robins, so I mean a 50% chance is better than a 0% chance. So we've had a look at my team. Let's see if we can avoid getting you guys some 0-point players with a few injury updates and a bit of news on suspensions and returning players as well. Starting with the Castleford Tigers, and they've already announced their 21-man squad. Good news for Tigers fans is the return of loose forward Adam Milner, who was sidelined with concussion and has missed the last 2 games. And even better news is that prop forward Jesse Senna-Lefeo has been named and will likely return after not featuring since pre-season. So if, like me, you've been sitting with a Jesse Senna-Lefeo on your bench in one of your other teams, now would be a very good time to put him back into your starting lineup. No news out of Catalans as yet in regards to their injury situation, but rumours are that Israel Folau will play again after having an extra week off to recover. As quoted by Steve McNamara, he said that he missed the training session with the Roosters due to feeling battered and sore after his first game for 4 years. Understandably, it'll take it out of any player. Over to Huddersfield, and the good news for them is that Matagi has avoided any further disciplinary action with the match review panel, so he'll be available for selection, so no need to panic and swap him out of your team. He'll still be running out for the Giants. That's realistically the only news out of Huddersfield right now. Hull FC's injury crisis continues though, and Beretta Ferriemo being ruled out for 1 month after he underwent surgery today to remove a hernia. No news on Ratu Naulogo. He will likely have to run out as Hull are very, very short on wing options right now unless they decide to promote from the academy. No news as yet on Carlos Tumavave and whether that niggling ankle has sidelined him for another week. Have to wait and see as to whether he is a no-runner or whether he features in the upcoming game. On a much more positive note though for Hull fans, that is the return of Tavita Sate. He has now served the last of his 2-game suspension and will likely go straight back into that starting role. So again, good time to get him back in. The other piece of good news is that Josh Griffin has been cleared to play by the disciplinary panel, them deeming that the fight with Liam Farrell and the simbing off the back of it was sufficient punishment for that one, so he will play this week. Over at Hull Kingston Rovers, their injury worries continue to mount as well. The Robins announcing that standout forward Harvey Levette will miss this next game due to mild concussion problems. In that same statement, the Robins announcing that Matt Parcell will miss this game as well due to an ankle injury. And to really double down on their selection problems in their forward pack, Robbie Mulhern has been suspended for one game after the match review panel handed that down to him on Monday. Two pieces of injury news out of the Rhinos this week, starting with the more positive news, and that is that Ash Handley has been cleared to play after he left the field with a knee injury, the 24-year-old being escorted off, but coach Richard Agar assuring that that is purely a precaution and that his side were far enough ahead to not have to risk Handley. On a sadder note for the Rhinos though, and that is that Cruz Leeming has been ruled out for a further 3 months after knee surgery. He has reportedly been down to London and seen one of the country's best specialists to see if they could speed up the recovery time, but they have said they will not rush him as they have competent replacements in Brad Dwyer right now. And on the final point at the Rhinos, and that is that they have today secured Joe Greenwood on an initial 2-month loan. He will be available for the Rhinos, and with their forward pack really starting to take a battering in these early stages of the season, he will likely play pending a late fitness test. Over to Toronto now, and their injury problems persist for yet another week. On a positive note for the Canadian franchise though, Gadwin Springer will likely play. He was ruled out late last week after suffering a bad head knock, failing concussion protocol, but will likely return this week to ease some of their injury troubles. John Wilkin has postponed surgery as well, and he will likely play. He was due to go into surgery on the Tuesday, but instead has moved that back until they have more players back and available, so a real boost for the Wolfpack in their dwindling forwards. Wakefield's injury curse has returned and has unfortunately claimed 2 of their long-standing stars, starting with Joe Arundel unfortunately suffering a season-ending injury. He'll play no further part in the 2020 season, and we send him our best wishes here and hope for a speedy recovery. Wakefield will also be without goal-kicking danger man and out-and-out utility Ryan Hampshire, as it was announced that he played 60 minutes against Castleford with a broken jaw, and as a result will miss the next 6 weeks. So if you do have Ryan Hampshire in your team, now's a good time to change that. Over to Warrington, and their backline troubles continue. This time youngster Matty Ashton will miss this week's game, the 21-year-old picking up a hamstring injury. Warrington yet to confirm the extent of that injury, but as a precaution he will miss this game, which means that Ratchford will move from centre to fullback. This obviously means that Warrington will have to fill that centre role, with Anthony Gelling still suspended pending investigation. Finally, over to the Wigan Warriors, and only 2 real issues of note, one of which is that Captain Sean O'Loughlin will miss this week and potentially the week afterwards as well, after that nasty eye poke against Toronto, as well as Joe Burgess being 50-50 on this one. But with Don Manfredi coming in, it's a question of will Burgess regain his spot. Of course, Manfredi scoring this week, so it will be a real selection headache. And if, like myself, you do have a Joe Burgess in one of your other teams, it's going to be real 50-50 as to whether he plays much part in the rest of the season. Personally, I'm a big Joe Burgess fan, but we'll have to wait and see. So that was our look back, and now it's time to look forwards, and that is to look at all the upcoming games from this coming round of Super League. So we start off on Thursday night. Hull KR host the Castleford Tigers on Thursday night as part of the return of Thursday Night Rugby League after the World Club Challenge last week. Friday night's one standalone fixture, and it's a big one. The Leeds Rhinos versus the Warrington Wolves, 7:45 kickoff live on Sky. Saturday, just the one fixture to bring you, and that is the Toronto Wolfpack versus St Helens. Then over to an action-packed Sunday as first take on second when the Huddersfield Giants host the Wigan Warriors. Wakefield Trinity make the trip over to Salford. And finally, Hull FC host the Catalan Dragons. All of those 3 PM kickoffs, none of those games televised. So you'll just have to tune into your local stations to find out how those go. Well, that has been this week's Fantasy Super League, looking back at round 4 and forward to round 5. We hope you've enjoyed. We hope that we've managed to inform a few decisions, and even more importantly, we hope that we can make you some points. Best of luck for the upcoming round. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.